Hey, welcome in the booth. I'm Joel Klatt. This is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, as it is each and every week. Dr. Pepper is the official drink of Fansville. Wild game here in Austin, Texas, as TCU comes in and they take down the top 10 Texas Longhorns. That's the third straight week, by the way, that we've come in and called an upset with the road team winning in the home team stadium. And I got to tell you, it just is a weird year. This was one of the most wild games that I can remember ever covering. Combined, what did we have? We had 1,000 penalties. 27 penalties. That's insane. It was certainly one of the most poorly officiated games that I've ever seen, even at the end. Really quickly there at the end. There's going to be a lot of controversy with the end of the game, with what happened, because TCU intentionally held Texas in order to get that 6 seconds off the clock, but Duggan certainly stepped out of the back of the end zone before the clock hit zero, and then there's a penalty, obviously, on TCU that doesn't feel like that should have been the end of the game. If Tom Herman could have declined the penalty and reviewed how much time was left on the clock, they would at least had some opportunity for a return. Not that they would have won the game, but it certainly didn't end in a very kosher fashion, if you will. Having said that, let's get to the game, because there was a lot of stuff going on in the game. Texas, they brought their inconsistent play from the second half of the Texas Tech game right into this game. They were undisciplined with penalties. They did not play great on offense. Throwing the football was a challenge for them. They didn't have a lot of separation in the back end. Their wide receivers were not getting open. Ellinger was trying to do the best he can. It wasn't his best game of all time, and the defense was trying to give them opportunities by holding TCU to those field goal tries. So it was a wild game. There was a lot going on, like I said. TCU, on the other hand, they seemed to move the football fine, in particular if they weren't shooting themselves in the foot. And I thought Duggan was terrific. They get their cues from this guy. They say he's tough. He's a great leader. He obviously dealt with that heart issue. And my player of the game is Max Duggan. This guy has been through a lot. So COVID happens, and everyone goes through a battery of heart tests. It turns out he has this very rare heart condition that he's had since birth that is quite dangerous, to be honest with you. So he's got to go through a procedure. It's a 9-hour procedure, and he's out. Some people say, it was an indefinite leave from the team to try to heal up. He's back 6 weeks later. All right, it's about 2 weeks, week and a half before their first game against Iowa State. So he doesn't start in the first half because they're concerned about his conditioning. They throw him out there because they need him, and he leads them almost to a victory against Iowa State. All right, played pretty well in that game, by the way. It was his highest percentage that he's thrown for in any game in his career. Then he comes out here today, and they were a bit concerned that he could get through an entire 60 minutes because of that conditioning. And here he is making huge plays late. The quarterback draw late in the game is the winning score for TCU. And Max Duggan was sensational. He converted with his feet. He played terrific against Texas last year, and he played terrific again against Texas this year. They've got to clean some things up, obviously, right? And I think both teams do. But moving forward, you got to feel real good about yourself if you're TCU because of your quarterback, Max Duggan. I thought he was sensational. And they've got some really good young pieces, young talented pieces out there on the outside. Quentin Johnston looks like an absolute star. I expect him to get more opportunities as the season goes on in the passing game. Defensively, I thought that they were really good. The big plays have hurt them, okay? Texas had another stretch of big plays, 30-plus yards, just like Iowa State did. And this week, that almost came back to bite them and really should have, if not for that amazing play at the 1-yard line. So credit to the defense for bowing their neck and getting the turnover when they need it. But they've got to shore up those big plays. They play really well for stretches, and then one guy makes one mistake, they get out of position, and boom, they get hit with a big play. The offenses in this league are just too good, and the quarterbacks are too experienced to make some of those mistakes, and they will hit you for those big plays. That will continue unless they get shored up as far as missed assignments go, in particular that gap responsibility within their front seven. Now on the Texas side, this is bitterly disappointing, in particular because they were able to fight through and come back, and it looks like they've got the win right on their fingertips. They get down to the 1-yard line. All they've got to do is punch it in. I'm a little surprised they didn't just run Ellinger. Set up with tempo and run it with Ellinger behind the running back. You get an extra blocker. You've got your best short yardage runner running the football as it is. They give it to Keontae Ingram from a shotgun mesh standpoint, and it gets knocked out. and Texas is going to lose the football game. That's very frustrating for them. And again, a lot of mistakes. They had mistakes last week with the special teams. They had mistakes this week all over the place. And it's got to be a frustrating day for a Texas fan to see their team play like that at home with a top 10 ranking and Oklahoma on deck. So Red River is next week. We'll see what OU is able to do against Iowa State. I think that's an absolute trap game for OU up there in Ames, Iowa. We'll see how that one plays out with Brock Purdy and Matt Campbell and that quality Cyclone team against an inexperienced Spencer Rattler and a team trying to lick their wounds after that Kansas State win a week ago in Norman. Around the country, I think Kyle Pitts might be one of, if not the best player in America that's not a quarterback. Kyle Pitts, 6 touchdown receptions now through his first 2 games of the season. I don't think any college player has done that, at least in recent vintage. He is an absolute monster. And Florida looks to be, at least in my estimation, really the class of the SEC East. Can't wait to see what Georgia is able to do with Auburn, in particular at the quarterback position. But Kyle Pitts right now looks like the absolute real deal. Could we have a tight end in the Heisman discussion? I think we might, with how good this guy is. It doesn't matter if he's double covered. It doesn't matter if he's single covered. They'll find the matchup, and they'll get the ball to him. So kudos to Dan Mullen, Kyle Trask, their quarterback, and the Florida Gators for another win and another big day. Trask had another big day throwing the football in large part because all the focus being paid attention to, at least Kyle Pitts, their tight end. So a big day in college football. Can't wait for the games tonight. But here, a huge win for TCU. They come in, they get a win on the road, and now they're 7-2 against the University of Texas in Big 12 play since 2012. Who would have thunk it? This is a team that could barely beat Texas before they got to the Big 12. They get into this conference. Now they're 7-2 in their first 9 in this league. So a huge win. Kudos to Gary Patterson and Max Duggan. Max Duggan, you were a star. Congratulations to TCU on a huge win. This has been In the Booth. I'm Joel Klatt. This is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here. College football on Fox.